I
There's no poetic devices in the Bible, though. Like, isn't
no,
that
no, no.
there's
I'm making
tons of metaphor in there,
I'm
and
making
like,
I'm making a sassy point of there are so many like random short stories and poems. Like I think I read Beowulf at one point, and these things where it's like, yeah, you could um get some morals out of it, but it would have never been no better than reading a couple verses of the Bible. Like it wasn't like I sat there and I got some sort of enlightenment in life. I just kind of realized that, hey, you're using a metaphor here. Hey, this dove is symbolism for peace, like very generic stuff that did not enlighten my life. But I do
Well,
not think that you should teach um a by like critic I don't think you can critically teach a kid whether it's um Bible or morals of a short story. I don't think you can critically teach them the morals supposed to get out of it, and you kind of just have to tell them because I don't think that they have learned or developed their own critical thinking, critiquing skills. And that is not necessarily because they're too young to do it. That's just because the system of education they're in does not lend themselves to develop those skills at all. It's kind of like the teacher has the answer, figured out the answer.
right.
My
So,
ma-
so it doesn't matter what the text is. You know, it could be 1,000 short stories and some of the Bible, some of the Quran.
Yeah.
And
my main contention with what you were saying there is that Beowulf doesn't have a church attached to it, and children aren't.
I had
like-
no idea about Beowulf. I don't remember. I just remember reading it.
Well, yeah, but like you, in terms of whether or not there's better books out there than the Bible, I'm sure there are. So if that is the case, and that might not be true, I don't know, but unless the Bible is the greatest book that's ever been written on moral philosophy, then yes, you should spend your time reading something else, right? Because
So even as
I
an
think that
adult,
the-
you don't think you should read it?
I think you should read it, but I don't think you should spend inordinate amount of your time just contemplating
book,
it.
man.
And it is, but there's a lot of stuff out there, and I think having a diversity of your knowledge bases is key to developing good moral character. And I think that the point that I was trying to get at is that having an entire system and they're like the Vatican City is a country. This is a very powerful organization who has the power to cover up child molestation for decades. I think that aspect of it makes it, to me, a bit. It doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right to teach a book that is associated with a government, associated with a system of hierarchy, a system of control. I don't think it's appropriate necessarily to teach that to children when it's based on nothing more than a superstition. I think that's
But
yeah.
that's not all
But-
people who believe in the Bible. That's just Catholics. And are you saying that you can't be a Catholic and disagree with the Vatican? Being a Catholic, you have to agree with the Vatican?
I don't know. I just don't think that the
I hate Nazis,
As-
but I've read Mein Kampf.
yeah.
and what of the Communist Manifesto too?
Yeah, no, like I think that it's important to, like I said, diversify the knowledge that you have.
So the Bible, Mein Kampf,
Yeah, read it
Communist
all.
Manifesto, Dynamics.
I think so. I think so. And read it all, and then kind of formulate an opinion when you can do that. But I don't know if, like, we know that your prefrontal cortex isn't even developed, so your ability to critically think isn't even fully developed until you're in your mid-20s. So when you're being taught these things in your teens, I think it is problematic, and I think to put that much onus onto one series of books is problematic. And that's my knee jerk for
I
it.
want to propose. Is it problematic to the fact that public schools make it so no religious text can be in school? Because do you think that the reason why debates like this are so heated is because you basically relegate all religion to either when you go to church on Sundays or you went to Christian school? Because like I've seen people who like when people say I've gone to Christian school, it's like there's this kind of like, if they're or atheists, there's this knee jerk kind of like, should I be talking to you right now?
What have I said?
And then because in public school, which is known to be where you get air quote educated, because you don't allow anyone to read the Bible critically, and I get that it could be considered hate speech to an extent, based on how our laws are, but because you don't allow people to read it, people just kind of, or atheists are just able to go like, yeah, so theists aren't allowed in our school, just like black people weren't allowed in our school back in the 1950s. Like I'm getting like that's how I kind of see a lot of it when people don't allow religious texts in school. It would be very, very difficult not to piss people off, but personally,
but they do, just not in the curriculum, right?
What do you mean?
Like I thought that like you're allowed to have a Bible in a school. You're just not allowed as a teacher to be like, this is the Bible, this is the teaching of God type of thing. I thought that was like I
don't even think you're allowed to go there. Like I'm trying to think like I don't know, but like as an English teacher, could you, instead of bringing in Beowulf, could you have your curriculum be, I'm going to take this one passage of the Quran that I got from, someone who's a PhD in Quran literature, and critically analyze it, but then also take another passage from the Bible and critically analyze it, take another passage from this and critically analyze it, and then realize at the end of all this critical analysis of this hyper specific passage that they all say the same thing to give a teaching lesson. Would I be allowed to do that as a teacher? For some reason, I want to knee jerk. I do not think so, especially in America.
Well, it's really unfortunate because so much of our culture, consists of. Okay, I'm not framing this right. A lot of like Bible stories, for instance, come up in other English literature. For instance, like you can't really understand like John Milton's Paradise Lost, or a lot of English poetry without having read the Bible, or like at least understanding it generally. And I think that's, for instance, I've talked to undergraduate students when I was an undergrad who were in first year English class and read poetry, talked about Adam and Eve, and they had no idea what that was and who they were. And
what?
Yeah, and so it's like these are, a lot of people just don't get these cultural units, these stories, and you can totally teach them, and teach the stories without the ideology, without the doctrine and stuff, and it's important. Anyway, yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's important.